Mr. President, thank you for joining us. You met recently in Cairo with the new Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Tell us what your impressions are of him now.
For me, it was the first time to see Mr. Netanyahu. I heard a lot about him. I heard his speeches here, his press conferences, but I didn't make any comment before seeing him so as to exchange views with him, speak with the man, understand what's in mind. Really, it was a very good meeting. He is keen on the peace process, as I understood from him. He has his own style for fulfilling his commitment concerning the agreement being signed between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And he promised that he is going to go ahead. But we are giving him some time to arrange his situation, because he was about 3 weeks or 2 weeks in office. But I think he will continue and he will work for peace.
When you say own style, does that mean own interpretation of the understandings of the principles, or you mean own style?
I think his own style, the way to implement the agreement. But the agreement is an agreement.
So there's no question.
The words are not going to be changed. So we are waiting until he put all his plan for how to fulfill the agreement. And we agreed to contact with each other every now and then. And if there is anything which needs a consultation, both agreed to meet at any time to discuss any matter which needed consultation, because we are intending to support peace. And we support the peace from the beginning. And Egypt is the country which started the peace process in this area. Without what Egypt did since 1977, I don't think that we couldn't have reached what is going on now.
So is it your impression that this is a man that you and all the other Arab leaders can work with?
I think we can work with him very well, and we have the experience with the Likud party beforehand. We signed the peace agreement between Egypt and Israel with late Menachem Begin. He was a very strong man, but we concluded a very good agreement, which is still working till now, and it will be a lasting agreement.
What do you see right now as the biggest obstacle to concluding a comprehensive peace?
Look, still there are problems with the settlements, problems of the withdrawal from, for example, Hebron, which is considered for the Palestinians is an important point which will give them confidence that the agreement will continue. Although Mr. Netanyahu promised me that he is going to do that, but in another style, because he has some problem with the settlers there. Maybe the problem of Jerusalem, but since Egypt signed an agreement with the Israelis at the beginning, and even before that we have two Camp David frameworks. The first framework which deals with the problem between Egypt and Israel. The second framework deals with the Palestinian problem in all its aspects. I think the Jerusalem is a big issue, but they could find a good formula which satisfies the needs of both sides, the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Did Benjamin Netanyahu say that to you?
No, I told him. I didn't want any answer from him because he was just newly appointed in his cabinet. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but a formula could be achieved.
But you mentioned the settlements. Today, there were reports that there are new bridges and new highways being built from the Golan Heights, from the West Bank, that indicate that Israel wants more access. How do you read that kind of maneuver?
I am afraid of such things to be done. My fear is it was going to complicate everything.
But why do you think this happened, especially after
I can't understand it. Now this may lead to much more violence, much more terrorism. I don't think neither Israel nor any country in the area or in the whole world need much more terrorism.
Is this the kind of thing that is the red flag, to pick up the red phone and say, Mr. Prime Minister, red alert?
I am going to tell him. I'm going to tell him.
Will you tell him soon?
Yes, I'll tell him when I return back. But it's very dangerous. He has to make good calculations now. We are on the way to a final negotiations for peace. We have to consolidate this. We have to support the peace. And I said several times, peace is cooperation, love, not hatred. So it worth any kind of concession.
But also in the past, your position has been that peace with Syria can be achieved only in exchange of land for peace. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has been adamant in his insistence that there will be no returning of the Golan Heights. Did you and he narrow that divide in your conversations?
Look, I spoke with him in general terms. I didn't want to embarrass him for the first meeting. I like to understand what is his mind. But I told him my advice. I have no problem. We have no problem between Egypt and Israel, except something very important for both of us, stability and terrorism. I told him, look, Syria will not go through any peace process or sign peace agreement unless it takes back all its occupied territory.
And what did he do?
And I told him, I don't want any answer from you. I don't want to create problems for you. This you could discuss with your cabinet, and whenever you are convenient, you have to do it. With the former Prime Minister Rabin, he said, Israel is not eager to keep 1 centimeter of the occupied land of the Israelis. And these statements came out several times. But they wanted to know what are they are going to gain from Syria in return. Anyway, it's a negotiating issue.
But psychologically for Israelis, it is.
And psychologically for the Syrians as well.
I mean, one of the reasons why it is said that Prime Minister Netanyahu is now the leader is because Israelis were concerned about the escalating insecurity. Is there anything that you could put on the table, or the other Arabs, that would in any way, psychologically at least, reassure the Israelis that they have nothing to lose?
In 1967, Golan was very important in any war which may take place. Nowadays, with the modern warfare, it's of no importance at all. You could overcome Golan. You don't need to put anything in Golan, neither the Israelis nor the Syrians. So it doesn't worth all this big fuss.
How soon, Mr. President, do you think that negotiations, peace negotiations, have to be resumed? Is time a factor now?
I think the sooner the better, because if they are going to stay for quite a long time, that means all the powers of the forces who are against peace will find the fertile land to start working in terrorism and complicate the whole thing. It is very dangerous. We have to start as soon as possible.
So you think that if the negotiations were resumed, this would be a wedge against the terrorists who are determined
It
to
will help.
end the...
Believe me, terrorist actions will never continue and will never stop unless we reach a comprehensive settlement.
But it's interesting, and this was the argument that Prime Minister Netanyahu made when he was a candidate, that there were more people killed since the peace process started than before.
Even now, there is no process going on. Many people are going to be killed, and it will continue. And if it is not going to continue internally, inside Israel, it may happen anywhere else. All of us have business, have embassies, have planes, have everything all over the world. So it's very dangerous. So I think resuming negotiations, the sooner the better. And we should expect on the course of the negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians and the Syrians, we should expect, as I told Rabin and Perez before, terroristic action may take place just to hinder the process. But we should insist on continuing the process so as whenever peace prevails, all these countries, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, all the countries in the area will cooperate in fighting terrorists.
And they will?
For sure.
Syria?
Oh, for sure. Whenever they sign peace and agreement, everybody will be keen on keeping stability in the whole area.
What do you hope to get from President Clinton in your meeting today? And you've also met with other U.S. officials.
I'm not asking President Clinton for the impossible, but I could tell you very frankly, the American role is the most important role in the peace process. They started this role since 1973, and we need the American role. It's very important, vital. Without it, we couldn't achieve what is being achieved till now.
Mr. President, the United States government and Egypt have had some differences of opinion over several things, including sanctions against Iraq, sanctions against Libya, and also the candidacy for a second term of Butros Ghali, an Egyptian, now Secretary General of the United Nations. How serious are these issues between your two countries?
There's no problem between Egypt, frankly, and the United States. Whenever there's a problem, we exchange views. We discuss like any other friends. For me, it was shocking to start saying no for Butros Ghali 6 months before the renewal. Anyway, I don't want to tackle this problem. He's the Secretary General of the UN.
You think he should remain?
I don't know. This depends upon the voting of the Security Council.
But he says he wants to stay.
He wanted to stay. For sure he wants to stay.
Finally, Mr. President, you alluded to terrorism before. As you know, terrorism is now hitting the shores of the United States. What are your thoughts now about the United States and how it faces terrorism? Do you have advice for the President on how we should be dealing with it?
It is an international phenomenon. We have to take measures and to react or to act against terrorism anywhere in the world.
So what measures?
For example, the main problem is the Middle East problem. If the Middle East problem could be solved fairly, this will be the biggest help to avoid terrorism.
Because
the people sometimes feel there's injustice, the unjust feeling of the people. They feel sometimes that the Israelis are taking everything, they are taking nothing, and the propaganda here and there, it's a big problem. For example, so many leaders who are dealing with Israel or the United States, including me, are being targeted by these people. They don't want the peace process to continue. They don't want any relation with the Israelis. That's why they are trying to fight us. But we are insisting on peace to continue. So we have all to work for a comprehensive settlement. This will be the biggest victory against terrorism.
Well, Mr. President, thank you.
Welcome.